Hello and welcome everybody to the regular town council meeting of September the 27th. We'll start it off with a motion to accept the agenda. Councillor Waters. Is there any additions or deletions, or is there anything else we need on there? Seeing nothing, all those in favor? Carried. Next, we need to adopt the minutes of the public hearing on September 13th. Looking for a motion. Councillor Broadjack, thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. Next up is the minutes of the last regular town council meeting. Councillor Lemko makes the motion. Everybody's had a chance to read. No errors or omissions. Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried. And the last one is pass the minutes of the special town council meeting of September the 17th. Councillor Warwell, thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried.
Your worship.
Yep.
You forgot to ask errors and omissions.
Oh, sorry, on the special of the 17th?
Yes, I'd like to actually point out an omission and an error, if I could, please. On the part with the administration of our town facilities, in the third bracket down, that starts aquatic center, pool, fitness center, social center, multiplex. There is an omission. The library gymnasium should be included in that bracket. It's omitted from the entire area. It's just what was actually said was fully implement the restriction and exception program for the social center, library gymnasium, multiplex, and aquatic and fitness center.
Okay, so it's the gymnasium at the library that we missed.
Yes, and it has to be spelled out because people are concerned as to whether it's the library itself or the gymnasium, and it's only the gymnasium. And the other aspect is within this, when we stated that we're going to fully implement the restriction exemption program for those facilities, it should not read the require a proof of double vaccination to use, because that doesn't come into effect until after October the 25th. The actual full restriction exemption program, as what was read to us from the provincial guidelines right at the start of our meeting, requires single dose between September 20th and October 25th, with a double dose required after the 25th, or proof of medical exemption or proof of privately paid negative PCR or rapid test within 72 hours. That doesn't need to be in this area there, because what we were doing is we were implementing the full restriction exemption program, and that's what applies to it. We were given 4 options. We were closing, we were leaving open, we were doing the full exemption program, and in the 4th category, we're doing the hybrid so that youth participation in sports or programs would still be available.
So what you're saying is that on the exemption program, the facilities under that starts on the 20th. No vaccination dates, single or double?
That is what the wording is in the provincial guidelines for full restriction exemption program. Single dose between September 20th and October 25th, double dose required after the 25th, and that is also it requires the 14-day time period for it to be an actual considered full dose. So that aspect was read to us before, but it was not part of what we were voting on.
Okay, so Sandra, can you help us out with the minutes here, where they're at?
I've reviewed it on YouTube several times, and what I'm quoting is what was presented to us and is in public record.
Okay, thank you very much. Sandra, can you help us out here?
Would it be acceptable to have that particular line read, the aquatic center, the pool, fitness center, social center, multiplex, and the library gymnasium will be participating in the restricted exemption program as per the guidelines set out by the province?
That would be fine.
Okay, so Councillor Riddick.
Thank you for bringing this forward, Councillor Berry. I wonder then if this matches what is in our online notes from the previous meeting?
I believe some of the information that's been provided to the public has tried to take and section out, maybe to try and make it clearer, because people are looking for individual facilities. But I believe that the information, it doesn't correctly reflect what we were voting on in our special meeting. And I would suggest that should be corrected as well. At the bottom of that, it gives the provincial guidelines for full restriction and spells it out correctly. So when we say it up here, it contradicts what's down there.
So the changes will need to be made there then too. Councillor Riddick.
So if I could ask then, because I've been using this, it is a more concise version of what was discussed and decided at our last meeting. Is there a way to be able to present this to the public and for us to be able to share it in a way that maybe is something that's a brief speaking point or something that we can cut and paste from to be able to utilize? So what I've been using is the facility proposal from administration, which had the consensus of council is to proceed with the decision. I'm not sure if you know where I'm looking at that. That's on the AllNet document from the previous meeting. So is that, I don't know if anybody else has been using that.
If I might, actually what Paul read to us was very clear for individual steps.
Yeah, and
It
it's,
was actually very clear.
and
And
it's
that
in
would be
here.
the best thing that we could reflect in the minutes and online with a little bit more explanation.
Paul, do you still have your notes, what you read to us that day?
If I could, your worship, I think that's what actually I was listening to when Paul was reading it last time.
Yes, I do, your worship. So what I read was, well, first what I said was, if we don't adopt the restriction exemption program, then adult users cannot use facilities. And then I talked about the restriction exemption program being implemented for the social center, the library, gymnasium, the multiplex, and the aquatic and fitness center. And that we would adopt the hybrid restrictions exemption program for the arena and the dance studio. And follow the youth activities can continue provided the following restrictions apply. Screen for symptoms, social distancing, masking except while engaging in activity, 1/3 fire code capacity for spectator attendance, attendees are limited to a single household or 2 close contacts if living alone, and must be masked and social distance. That failure to abide will result in full restrictions kicking in. And then that facilities close to the public would be the public workshop, the Vegreville material recycling facility, the museum, the fire hall, and the visitor information center. And that the facilities remaining open will be the town office and the landfill, and we will not be implementing the restrictions exemption program for those. So people will be required to mask and social distance when they enter the building.
So is everybody in agreement that that's exactly what we voted on? Okay. So can we now change the minutes to reflect exactly what that is, and that one omission where we didn't have the library gymnasium to be added to the minutes? Everybody in agreement on that? Okay. You're not?
I am sorry, your worship, I am in agreement with that. And if we can also adjust this particular, it's not even a document, but the notes from the previous meeting?
When the minutes are corrected, the minutes actually come from the agenda notes, so they will be corrected. Also too, the news release that the communications and marketing manager put out is on our website and easily accessible, and it really breaks it down on there as well.
Thank you for that.
Okay, Councillor Worrell.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the breakdown that was done from our communications department. Quite frankly, maybe we could give some tips to the province as to how to do it, and I'm like dead serious. Unfortunately, the way things are listed with the provincial is very hard to read and requires you to also go into the orders as well, So very, very confusing. So I appreciate anything we can do to provide clarity for our residents because they're looking to us and we're looking to a very unclear system with the province. I can tell you one thing I just thought was an interesting update on the youth. Because of the way it has been left with the province, I just received an email late last night that happened to come from the leagues. And the leagues actually had to send out to each association within their groups, asking them to go back and had to provide almost what looks like an update book where you have to scan through and see what everyone's regulations are. And they're different there's 3 or 4 different models throughout all of them. So it has created a very difficult system for people to navigate. So it's unfortunate, but thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lemko.
Yeah, Your Worship, for the topic of discussion right now, we're talking about the minutes minutes only, not a question about the restrictions.
Yeah.
So I'll save that for
sure.
later. Thank you.
Okay, so for moving forward, we are voting to move the minutes, the amended minutes to represent exactly what Paul just read to us and to clear that one omission away that's what we're voting on. Okay? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, before we get on with the rest of our agenda, I would just like to address a problem that's come up. The few councillors have said that they've received some feedback from the public regarding us not wearing masks at the meetings. Well, we all have our mask with us, that we wear them in, and when we take our seats here, we have these protectors on both sides of us all the way down. So, and we're pretty adamant that when we get up to move around, we put our mask back on. So just for those of you who think that we're being hypocrites, we're not. We do have these plastic screens around us. So, thank you. I just wanted to bring that up. Okay, so first up is correspondence.
Okay, this is a letter from Vegreville Transportation Services Society addressed to Mayor and Town Council. On behalf of Vegreville Transportation Services Society, or VTSS, I would like to thank you for your decision once again to provide funding to our organization. The generous grant in the amount of $22,000 is greatly appreciated. This funding will help to solidify the fiscal footing of VTSS as we navigate into 2022 and support consistent service levels in the future. There is no way that this letter can adequately convey how much VTSS appreciates your generosity. Our clients are greatly enriched by this service. We would also like to thank Council for the invitation and opportunity to discuss VTSS as a whole and the need for transportation within our community. Thanks, Elaine Kuchar, Program Coordinator.
Thank you. So we'll take a motion to receive and file and to pass this on to our budget meetings. Councillor Berry makes the motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Mr. Paul Casey, you're up next.
Yes, Your Worship, this is a memo to Mayor and Council and the Town Manager regarding the 2021 tax sale. The 2021 tax sale was held on September 13th, 2021 in the Council Chambers of Town Administration Building. The tax sale included the following properties: tax roll 153-800 with a reserve bid of $35,000, tax roll 016000 with a reserve bid of $150,000, and tax roll 063201 with a reserve bid of $225,000. There were no bids received for these properties. As a result, the town of Vegreville will be submitting the documentation to land titles for the transfer of titles as tax forfeiture.
Thank you. Take a motion for information. Councillor Warba, thank you. Is there any conversation? Anybody questions? Pretty standard operating procedure. The properties go up for auction. There was no takers, so they will move to the land titles and get them in the town's name. You got another one there too, Paul?
Yeah, the next one, Your Worship, is the
A point of
Excuse
order,
me.
you need to call a vote.
I need to vote for, yeah. I was just about there. All those in favor? Carried. You go ahead now. Paul.
Okay, thank you,
Sorry.
Your Worship. Next business item is the monthly cash statement for the month of August 31st, 2021. We began the month with $13,184,080. We ended the month with $12,963,693 for a use of cash of $220,387. The major sources of cash during the month of August were $651,195 for property taxes, $110,078 for the quarterly GST refund, $30,000 for a sale of a Foxview lot, and $309,500 for the county recreation grant. Other major uses of cash were for miscellaneous concrete work, $116,539, the Minburn Lodge requisition for $150,884, and the quarterly RCMP contract fee for $200,838.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul. Councillor Broderick makes a motion for information. Any questions for Paul on that financial statement? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Paul. Next up, Sandra Ling.
This request for council decision is for the advanced voting venue change for the 2021 general municipal election. On September 13th, 2021, council passed a motion to hold the 2021 general municipal election advanced votes on October 6th, 2021 and October 13th, 2021 in council chambers of the town administration building. After further review of the council chambers as the venue for walk-through traffic, it was decided that the Vegreville Centennial Library Gymnasium is better suited for the COVID-19 protocols that need to be in place for the safety of both the public and the election workers. As part of the communication strategy, notices and advertisements will be in accordance with the Local Authorities Election Act, as well as our 2021 elections communications plan. A recommendation is being made that Town Council approve the change in venue from the council chambers at the Town of Vegreville Administration Building to the Vegreville Centennial Library Gymnasium for the advanced vote dates of October 6, 2021 and October 13, 2021 from 12 noon to 8 p.m.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion for that recommendation. Councillor Rudick. His name in the minutes. Okay, any questions for Sandra regarding this? Will we have signage towards pointing them in the right direction?
Yes, we'll have signage on the front doors as the library is scheduled to be open again after their renovations. So we'll have signage on the front doors telling them they cannot access the advanced voting polls unless they go through the rear doors. And we'll have directional signage where they come in, where they exit, so we're not crossing traffic.
Okay, Councillor Lemko, you had a question?
Yes, question is, have we discussed this possibility with the library manager that might impact their business in any way, shape, or form, parking and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, facilities, Director Rowe and Ms. Williams have all
Okay,
had this discussion.
yeah, I just want to make sure that that little piece was there.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, Councillor Rudick.
Has there been any consideration, I appreciate the change in location makes more sense for COVID restrictions. Has there been any consideration, the County of Strathcona and a few other places have done drive-through voting, particularly for the advance poll?
Drive-through voting is something that touched on our radar earlier before the election was even called. There are a couple municipalities it has been brought to their attention, it's been brought up through their councils. One of the issues that they are finding is the legality of it all, with the keeping the vote confidential. How do you do that in a vehicle where there's more than one person sitting in there? It may or may not be a private vote at that point, and we don't necessarily have the right setup available for us to do this. Part of the issue is too, it will have to be an outdoor venue, and we're unsure of what the weather will be like on those days, and you have workers standing outside for 10 hours.
Good. Okay, all those in favor of the recommendation? Carried. You've got a couple more I see here, Sandra, so.
The second request for council decision is suspension of restricted exemption program for the facilities on voting days. On September 22nd, 2021, the restricted exemption program was put into place for certain town facilities, including the Centennial Library Gymnasium and the Social Center. With the restricted exemption program, you must show proof of double vaccination or privately paid negative PCR or rapid test within 72 hours of admission. By suspending the restricted exemption program for the advanced vote dates and election day, the facilities would revert to the previous restrictions of 1/3 capacity, physical distancing, physical barriers, masking, and sanitation for the day. The communication to the public is that this information will be included in all our election advertising for print, website, and social media, and notices will also be posted on the entrances of the facilities. The recommendation is being made that Town Council suspend the restricted exemption program for the Vegreville Centennial Library Gymnasium for the advance vote dates of October 6, 2021 and October 13, 2021, and for the Social Center on Election Day, October 18th, 2021.
Okay, take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Waters, you want to go first?
I just thought I would say that it is important for the group to know that it's not, while we're looking at this, we're looking at it because that's the way it's put forward from the provincial restriction. So it's not that we're just choosing or the recommendation is coming forward. It actually does say right on the, under the election section that this would be the requirements, so people wouldn't have to. So just important so people know we aren't just changing for the day for one reason.
So the province might have got that one right.
Maybe.
I see where you're going. Okay, any other questions? All those in favor? Carried. Next one.
Okay, the last one is for institutional voting stations during the 2021 general municipal election. Section 80 of the Local Authority Election Act authorizes a municipality by resolution to designate the locations of one or more institutional voting stations. Institutional voting stations enable the Vegreville residents in the hospital and in assisted living facilities to vote without having to travel. Deputy returning officers are assigned this responsibility on election day. The returning officer will assign the times at which the votes will take place in each institution. The communication strategy for this is, in addition to the advertisements required by the Local Authorities Election Act, a notice of election will be posted in at least one conspicuous place in each of the identified facilities prior to the election. The recommendation is being made that Town Council designate the following facilities as institutional voting stations for the 2021 general municipal election on October 18th between the hours of 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. as the Homestead Senior Citizens Lodge, St. Joseph's General Hospital, the Vegreville Care Center, Heritage House, Vegreville Manor, and Century Park.
Okay, thank you. Take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Rajek, so moves. Any questions? Seeing none.
I do have a question. Maybe I'm just missing a name. Isn't there a St. Anne's Manor?
Well, that's Veg Senior Housing. There's three
Oh,
complexes.
no, okay, yes, I stand corrected. I realize now.
Okay. All those in favor of the recommendation? Carried. I know that we're supposed to be carrying on here, but I have a question for Councillor Broderick. Will your facility, a Homestead Lodge, will candidates be allowed in to talk to the residents? Have you guys talked about that over there?
I think that will be brought up at our next board meeting. Right now, we have restrictions that are in place to be cautious for prevention of COVID transmission. So at this point, I would say no, but it will be a board decision.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Sandra, I was just wondering, I had somebody inquire today, and this is an elections question. In Vegreville, is there any process for special ballot? I didn't think so, but I wasn't sure, so I said I'd bring it to you tonight.
No, we have not done special ballots. It's not something we've done in the past. We have not had a lot of call for it. This would be the first year that we've received inquiries, but nothing formal or concrete, just more the questions.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing would be worse than waiting 2 days to count those mail-in votes to see who get in. Okay, thank you very much, Sandra. Next, Corporate Service Director Paul Casey, you're up again.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. This is a request for council decision to cancel property taxes on roll 385600 and refund the 2020 property tax payment that the taxpayer made. The background is property taxes in the amount of $284.95 were levied on roll 385600 in 2021. In 2020, property taxes were levied in the amount of $278.47 and paid. Roll 385600 is the roll number for the location of Prosperity Industrial Park. This property had been leased as farmland in prior years and the lease expired May 1st, 2020. As the property is being developed as an industrial park, the lease was not renewed in 2020. Both the 2021 and 2020 property taxes were levied to the former lessee of the property due to an administrative error. The financial implication is that cancellation of the property tax levy of $284.95 will be recorded as a reduction in property taxes levied for 2021, and the refund of $278.47 for the 2020 payment will be recorded as a charge to the operating fund in 2021. Communication is the former lessee of the property will be advised in writing of the cancellation of the property taxes for both 2021 and 2020 and provided a check for the payment made in 2020. The property tax clerk will be informed to remove the lessee from the roll. The recommendation is administration recommends council approve the cancellation of property taxes levied in 2021 on roll 385600 in the amount of $284.95 and refund the amount of $278.47 for the 2020 levy paid due to an administrative error.
Okay, take a motion for the recommendation. Councillor Barry makes the motion. Any questions?
I'd just like to make.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to make the comment that typically we don't forgive taxes. And in this case here, it's being an administrative error, then that's about the only time that we do consider it.
All right. Okay, all those in favor of the recommendation? Carried. Thank you very much, Paul. Okay. Next up is council reports. We will start with Councillor Warwa.
All right, on September 17th, we had our special council meeting, and on the 17th, also the wayfinding meeting. And on the 21st, I attended the legislature meeting and our presentation to council. On the 22nd, we had an additional special council meeting and our CAO review and tonight's council meeting. And the only other thing I wanted to put in is that some of our upcoming meetings have decided we will to hit the Zoom format on a number of our future meetings. And that's what I got.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Rudick.
So since we last met, there are a number of meetings for FCM. Most of the meetings that Councillor Warwa mentioned, I was in attendance as well. But I do want to draw special attention to some of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities meetings that specifically relate to issues that we've talked about here in Vegreville. We have talked about the impact to our budget, about the RCMP increase in funding and the new body armor and body camera, et cetera. So that has been flagged as an issue and put forward as an issue that FCM is going to be requesting. There is also the Western Economic Solutions Task Force is coming to its end, and the report will be coming forward this fall with some very specific outcomes and also some things that we've already seen as a positive result, but we want to keep moving forward. So some of the things that have been discussed as we met with elected officials across the country is how to continue that momentum, particularly making sure that we don't lose some of the issues that were in that set of tasks that we were given, including infrastructure for things like pipelines, as well as other sorts of infrastructure that are important to the economic future of the country. So there was a number of different strong suggestions that are coming forward in the next 100 days after the new election of the federal government are really important to make sure that we're moving forward. So as a minority government is in place, that's actually a good time for municipalities to be able to advance some of our causes. So that is some things that I just wanted to bring forward for that. As well, I wanted to just mention September 24th, the RMA District 5 zone meeting. So that was an opportunity to make a presentation on behalf of FCM to elected officials in the region. And just speaking to that group there on Zoom, there are a number of local elected officials that aren't running again, seeking election again. So I just wanted to, in this format, say thank you to all of our neighbors in counties and towns and villages around us that have put in their dedicated effort, and to say thank you to our council mates on this council as well, who've put in many, many hours of dedicated time and energy to making sure that our community here, as well as communities nearby, are better for their work. So thank you to Councillors Brodziak and Councillor Waters in this format as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to ask you a question. Does FCM realize how quick a decision or the pressure needs to be put on the federal government? Because our bill is in the mail, I'm sure. We'll be getting it pretty soon, and they expect to get paid. So they understand how this needs to be taken care of as fast as.
Absolutely, yeah. So that discussion, as well as so there are some things like Bill C-21 was one of the bills that died on the order papers in the change of the government, but that conversation hasn't. So in particular, the RCMP budgetary decision actually has really reached, not a fever pitch, but it's a very concerning issue for a number of different municipalities. Most of us that have this bill that's been delivered to us, one of the concerns is that for those municipalities that were told to put money aside, it isn't sufficient, and it didn't keep pace with the inflation and also the negotiation with the unions. So even those that have put money aside do not have sufficient. So the ask right now is that any money that has been put aside by municipalities, that they're able to keep that for future billing, and that what we're asking for is that any retro pay is covered by the federal government. So it's a very specific pointed ask in a very timely manner. So even with the election, the conversations have continued with the administrative staff in the department.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Brodziak.
Thank you, Your Worship. On September 17th, we had a wayfinding signage meeting, and I'm looking forward to all the signage that will be coming out to Vegreville in the near future, especially with our new logo. On September 17th, we had the special meeting of council. September 21, a council presentation, as well as our legislative committee meeting. On the 22nd, another special meeting of council. September 23rd, we had a Chamber of Commerce board meeting in advance of our regular meeting, and that was specifically to discuss the forum that will be held on October 4th, and to discuss all the what type of format that would be most recommended. On September 24th, we had our intermunicipal committee meeting with mayor and 2 councillors. And September 27th as well, that's tonight's council meeting. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Waters.
Thank you. Excuse me. I had the same meetings as the councillors that went ahead of me. Just want to say after the special meeting, I had some people reach out to me, and I appreciate that. We are a caring community, and that really shows that people are definitely concerned. We get that, and just trying to do the best we can. And just to add on a happy thing, on the 25th, on Saturday, I worked at the corn maze. Fantastic. I worked the admission booth. Thank you. And the parking with the Rotary, and people coming in were happy. People leaving were even happier. They're coming back. They're going to attend another weekend. So fantastic event. If you haven't gone yet, there's still lots of time. Do take part.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just briefly, on the 14th of September, Corn Maze Committee meeting. On the 15th, the St. Joseph Hospital Community Board meeting. Fortunately, I can't say too much on that. Most of it was in camera due to COVID conditions. And special meeting of council on the 17th, and also the wayfinding signage meeting, and I am also very excited to see just where we move on those signs. I think it's going to make a very big difference in the town. On the 21st, the ledge meeting, and followed that with the CAO review meeting. On the 21st, Corn Maze Committee meeting, and I'll leave most of that to our committee chair, Councillor Lemko. What we're doing is I sit on that as a volunteer, but we're meeting Tuesdays right after the Corn Maze weekend so that we can see what took place and get ready for the following weekend. So I'll leave most of the information from him. Continuation of our special meeting on the 22nd and tonight's council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lemko.
Thanks, Your Worship. On the 14th, I attended a Corn Maze meeting, and I'll get into some details after I say where I've been and what I've done. September 15th, the library board meeting via Zoom, where discussion was around the COVID restrictions that were just placed, and the need for us to go to curbside pickup at this point, close the facility until we could better determine what was needed to be. Well, the facility remains closed at this point. The board felt it was the time to upgrade the front desk to make it more safe for both the staff and the patrons that attend the facility. So this was an ideal time to do that. So that's why the facility stays closed. On the 17th, the special meeting with to discuss COVID restrictions, as well as the wayfinding signage meeting, and I was very impressed at the presentation and the fact that we're finally moving forward with something there. The 21st, the ledge meeting, as well as the meeting with the presentation from Vantage Builders to Town Council. On the 22nd, the special council meeting. The 25th and 26th, I was at the Corn Maze, and tonight's council meeting. Now, going back to the Corn Maze and the meetings that we have midweek after the weekend is to rejiggle what we need to do, what worked, what didn't. We certainly thank the volunteers, the Rotary, the Kinets who were out, and the multitude of people, the Pierogies and Jam who provided music, and all the volunteers who were out assisting us. This initiative happened out of the tourism board. Bring more people to our community to see what we have to offer, and maybe one day they'll decide to purchase property and live here or set up a business here because of the great community. One little story, and I'll share this. Anya, our culture, recreation, and whatever portfolio she carried, almost all of them. Anyway, she's the bolt behind the Corn Maze and gets everything done administratively for us, and helps us out. But anyway, she got a call Saturday morning from Cold Lake. A gentleman asked if we have taxi service to the airport, and she gave him the numbers of the service that she could possibly get. A few hours later, a plane landed at the airport. A family of 4 was transported to the Corn Maze. They spent 3 hours there, thanked us that they thoroughly enjoyed their time, and then took a taxi back to the airport and flew home. That's the kind of people that are coming to enjoy our Corn Maze, and nothing but positive comments. And the beauty of the Corn Maze, it provides people with an opportunity to come out in an outdoor setting, practice social distancing, and wear a mask if you so choose. We encourage that, but it also provides our nonprofits in the community with a chance to work a little bit, and the profits go back into the community. It's great. Our numbers this weekend were, because of the weather, were the most that we've had in the past 2 years. And in saying that, I want to come to the part about the restriction meetings we had and the follow-up from the citizens of Vegreville. So one thing was about the facility, the arena, the swimming pool, and the studio. and that we have adopted the REP program, exemption program, but we did a hybrid. So we threw in the 1/3 capacity, which nowhere in the information that I've read, nor that I've been told by other people, is that a possibility. It's either cut or dried. So, and that's what come to me, and I read it and followed up. So you explained it earlier in the minutes, discussion we had earlier. If we're doing REP, that means proof of vaccination for adults, not 1/3 capacity and wear a mask and social distance. It's either REP, proof of vaccination, or 1/3. We're not talking youth here, we're talking the adults. The youth are exempt, and that's the challenge that was raised to me, and I can't defend it, our decision. So, Paul, can you explain a little bit too?
Yes, Councillor Lemko. Actually, youth under 12 are exempt. Youth over 12, between the ages of 12 and 17, are not exempt under the restrictions exemption program. However, when we implemented the hybrid program for the arena and the dance studio, it was on the information that we had available at the time, and if things have changed since then maybe we need to reconsider. However, the restrictions that are put in place for youth between the ages of 12 and 17, in order to use the facility without being vaccinated, are the exact same restrictions are required for people who are unvaccinated who would use the facility if we did not use the restrictions exemption program. We decided on that course of action because Dr. Hinshaw, in her public address, had mentioned that she was aware of municipalities putting forward the full restrictions exemption program and making children 12 to 17 having to show proof of vaccine to participate in their youth sports, and had recommended that municipalities consider giving the youth an opportunity without doing that. So that's why we created this hybrid program. These rules are confusing. I don't think that it's necessarily black and white. I think there has to be some leeway, and we gave the leeway to the youth for using the dance facility and for using the arena. The same would apply if youth were involved in a program in the aquatic center, except for that we applied the full restrictions exemption program in the aquatic center. So they would have to prove proof of vaccination in accordance with the restriction exemption program, because they are not exempt. Youth under 12 are exempt.
Thanks for clarifying that. So the document I'm reading, though, it says requirements for restriction exemption program by HS or Alberta, it says on the bottom here. And I guess maybe it's not as clear to me as it might be to you. So can we just review this and then bring it back to Ledge where we can discuss a bit more? Because it is rather confusing to read. And to me, it just, there's a little more confusion than that. But thanks for that. I know it's very difficult, and the citizens are on both sides of the fence. There's people agreeing with us and disagreeing with us. And I have one more item, and it's from Alberta Health, and it's Dr. Henshaw's order, CMOH Order 44/2021. And it talks about the protecting Albertans from exposure to COVID-19 and the prevention of the spread of COVID-19. She makes the following order. And in there, table contents, masking, physical distancing, working from one's private residence, and general exemptions to indoor masking. So you're allowed to be alone at a workstation, separated by at least 2 meters distance from all other persons. And I want to clarify this and why we're not. In L here, it says separated from every other person by a physical barrier that prevents droplet transmission. So if there's anyone out there you can refer to CMOH Order 44, 2021, which allows us to be in a setting like this, because we do have the physical barrier that prevents droplet transmission. And that's all this man has to say, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you very much. Just to clarify one thing about the hybrid usage program that we put in place, and especially for youth sports programs, is that the user group is now responsible for the 1/3 capacity, the distancing, the masking and stuff. It's not the town. So what is our fallback when, let's say, there's a bunch of parents that aren't listening at the arena, and is it the expectation of our decisions that minor hockey, Vegreville minor hockey, is the police on this, or is it the staff at the arena? Like, what have we chosen for that hybrid situation?
The expectation is the user group, so in this case, in your case, Vegreville Minor Hockey, and their ramifications are that if they fail to follow the rules, then we will implement the full restrictions exemption program.
Okay.
I just wanted to answer one of the questions that Councillor Lemko had brought up. They had an opportunity for associations to submit the number one concern question, and that was actually the one that Councillor Lemko brought up, which was that they felt that it was unclear with them listing and saying participants and giving the spectators. So it has actually been submitted as a question. They have not answered back, the province, yet, but I did want you to know that that was actually the number one question submitted forward. So they're telling us they hope they had an answer back within 48 hours. That came on Sunday, so cross our fingers. So if we have that, you know, we'll send that forward, but they haven't answered us as of this morning, so.
Okay. So everybody's probably wondering what I've been up to, eh? Answering a few phone calls and from concerned citizens, and on the 16th, we had the grand opening of Blush Blonde Co., and it was a little windy that day. The owner lost her hat during the picture taking, but we redid it and it worked out well. So congratulations to staff. The special meeting on the 17th, the wayfinding on the 17th, and then at 1 o'clock I went into a meeting, town hall, with Premier Kenny, Minister McIver, Minister of Municipal Affairs, and Dr. Hinshaw, and it was mostly mayors and reeves, pretty much, a couple of CAOs that were on that call, and all the questions that we came up with on the 17th were asked. And basically, they had a policy set, they just hadn't filled the policy in yet. So there was no answers really. It was I wouldn't say nobody was passing the buck, because nobody could answer any of the questions. So then when we come back to our other special meeting on the 22nd, I think there was a little bit more from the province, but I think all in all that this council did, and admin did the best job with our facilities to keep everything running and open to the majority of the people in town. So I really kudos to the staff and trying to keep up with provincial policy that hadn't been written yet. I mean, it's kind of tough to make decisions on something that doesn't have any meat to it yet, so. And I was attended all the rest of the meetings, the town hall, the legislative meeting, the special meetings. We had our intermunicipal committee meeting on Friday, and tonight's town council meeting, and just want to say that it's getting close to the end of to this council, and things are starting to wind down a little bit, but you know, there's still tough decisions that need to be made every day, so we'll just keep chugging along here. So if anybody else has anything else for council for this meeting, then I will adjourn the meeting at 7:49.